The massive throne room of the Zephyrian Empire gleamed with cold metal and harsh blue lights. Emperor Vexthul sat on his crystalline throne, his 6 arms drumming impatiently against the armrests. His scaled face showed no emotion as he stared down at the gathering of alien ambassadors below. The air hummed with tension as representatives from 12 different species waited for his announcement. The Terran conflict has dragged on for 3 cycles. Vexthul's voice boomed through the chamber, each word carefully calculated. My fleets are stretched thin across 40 systems. I need allies, not more enemies. Ambassador Krilltalk, an insect-like being from the Hive Collective, clicked his mandibles nervously. Your Majesty, the humans are primitive. Surely your vast armies can crush them without assistance. Vexthul's yellow eyes narrowed. Primitive? These humans have destroyed 17 of my battle stations and captured 4 entire star systems. They fight with a ferocity I have never encountered. Each defeat only makes them stronger, more determined. The Emperor rose from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the assembled diplomats. At 12 feet tall, he towered over every other being in the room. His empire spanned 300 star systems, commanded fleets that could shatter planets, and held technologies that other species could only dream of possessing. I have decided to make an alliance, he announced. But alliances require trust. Trust requires bonds that cannot be easily broken. The ambassadors exchanged glances. Political marriages between royal families were common practice in this part of the galaxy. Most expected Vexthul to offer one of his many sons in marriage to secure a powerful alliance. I will offer my daughter, Princess Lyrahan, in marriage to whoever can bring me the head of the human general who leads their resistance. Silence fell across the throne room like a heavy blanket. Everyone knew about Princess Lyrahan. Born with a rare genetic condition that prevented her from bearing children, she had been considered worthless by Zephyrian standards for decades. Her inability to continue the royal bloodline made her a political liability rather than an asset. Ambassador Thorn of the Crystalline Confederacy spoke first. Your Majesty, with respect, Princess Lyrahan cannot produce heirs. What value does such a marriage hold? Vexthul's laugh was cold and calculating. Exactly my point, Ambassador. This is not about creating dynasties. This is about removing a threat. The human general, Marcus Thompson, has become a symbol of hope for their resistance. Kill him, and their morale will crumble. The marriage to my daughter is simply a bonus. The insult to his own daughter was clear to everyone present. Princess Lyrahan was being used as bait, nothing more. A consolation prize for whoever could accomplish what his own vast military machine had failed to do. The general operates from a mobile command ship, Vexthul continued. He never stays in one location for more than a few solar rotations. His tactical genius has turned a small rebellion into a major threat to my empire. Intelligence suggests he has only a handful of ships, yet he strikes with surgical precision. Ambassador Krilltalk leaned forward eagerly. What do we know about this human? Marcus Thompson, age 42 by their reckoning. Former military commander from their homeworld of Earth. He joined the resistance after my forces occupied the human colony of New Haven. Our records show he lost his wife during the initial bombardment. Vexthul paused, accessing data from his neural implant. He has 2 offspring who travel with him aboard his command vessel. Several ambassadors scoffed at this information. The idea of bringing children into a war zone seemed absurd to most galactic civilizations. Military leaders were expected to be focused, unencumbered by family attachments. Children aboard a warship? Ambassador Thorn shook his crystalline head. How primitive are these humans? Do not underestimate them, Vexthul warned sharply. That attitude has cost me dozens of commanders. Thompson's unconventional methods have consistently outmaneuvered my best strategists. He uses chaos and unpredictability as weapons. The Emperor activated a holographic display showing recent battle footage. The assembled diplomats watched as human ships, vastly outnumbered and outgunned, executed impossible maneuvers. They saw Zephyrian dreadnoughts exploding in brilliant flashes as smaller human vessels darted between them like angry hornets. Notice how they fight, Vexthul pointed to the display. They show no fear of death. When cornered, they become more dangerous, not less. Other species surrender when faced with overwhelming odds. Humans? They find ways to make overwhelming odds work against you. Ambassador Salmoth of the Shadow Fleet raised a tentacled appendage. Your Majesty, if this general is so dangerous, perhaps we should consider negotiation instead of assassination. The temperature in the throne room seemed to drop several degrees. Vexthol's 6 arms clenched into fists simultaneously. I am Emperor of the Zephyrian Empire. I do not negotiate with rebels and primitives. I conquer them. The finality in his voice ended any further discussion of peaceful solutions. The Emperor had made his position clear. Marcus Thompson would die, and whoever accomplished this task would receive Princess Lyrahan as a wife. Regardless of her inability to bear children, I will give you all 7 solar rotations to consider my offer, Vexthul announced. Bring me proof of Thompson's death, and my daughter becomes your bride. Fail, and I will find other means to end this conflict. As the ambassadors filed out of the throne room, whispered conversations began immediately. Some species were already calculating the military resources needed to hunt down a single human general. Others wondered if the reward was worth the risk of facing someone who had consistently defeated superior forces. None of them noticed the figure hidden in the shadows behind a massive pillar. Princess Lyrahan had listened to every word of her father's announcement. Her delicate features showed no emotion, but her hands trembled slightly as she absorbed the reality of her situation. She was being offered as a prize for her father's war, a meaningless reward for killing a man she had never met. The fact that she could never bear children made her worthless in her father's eyes, suitable only for this kind of political transaction. As the last ambassador left the throne room, Lyrahan stepped deeper into the shadows. For the first time in her life, she found herself hoping that this mysterious human general would continue to survive, not because she cared about the war, but because his death would seal her fate as the unwanted wife of whoever managed to kill him. The human command ship Liberty's Edge drifted silently through the asteroid field of the Kepler 442 system. From the outside, it looked like nothing more than a modified cargo hauler, its hull scarred by countless battles and hastily welded repair patches. Inside, however, the ship hummed with activity as one of the most wanted men in the galaxy reviewed tactical reports. General Marcus Thompson sat in his command chair, studying holographic displays that showed Zephyrian fleet movements across 7 star systems. At 42, his brown hair was already streaked with gray, and deep lines around his eyes spoke of too many sleepless nights planning impossible victories. Despite the stress of leading a rebellion against the galaxy's most powerful empire, his hands remained steady as he manipulated the tactical data. "Dad, you need to eat something," a voice called from across the bridge. Marcus looked up to see his daughter Sarah approaching with a steaming meal tray. At 16, she had inherited her mother's determination along with her father's strategic mind. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore the same gray utility uniform as the rest of the crew. "I'll eat later, sweetheart," Marcus replied, turning back to his displays. "These patrol patterns are changing. Vexthul is getting smarter." Sarah set the tray down on a nearby console and crossed her arms. "Mom always said you'd forget to eat if someone didn't make you. That someone is me now." The mention of his late wife brought a brief shadow across Marcus's features. Elena Thompson had been killed 3 years ago when Zephyrian forces bombarded New Haven Colony. The civilian shelter where she worked as a doctor had taken a direct hit from an orbital bombardment platform. "Your sister's right," came another voice from the communication station. 12-year-old David Thompson looked up from the encryption programs he was running. Despite his age, he had become the ship's best codebreaker, able to slice through alien communication protocols that baffled adult specialists. "The Zephyrians changed their command frequencies again," David reported, "but I cracked the new encryption. They're really angry about something. Lots of emergency transmissions between their flagships." Marcus smiled despite himself. His children had grown up aboard this ship, turning the bridge into their classroom and playground. Other military commanders might have considered this unprofessional, but Marcus had learned that family gave him strength rather than weakness. "What kind of transmissions?" he asked, moving to look over David's shoulder at the communication logs. "It's weird, Dad. They keep mentioning someone called Princess Lyrahan and something about a marriage announcement. The Emperor is offering her to whoever kills you." Sarah dropped into the chair next to her brother. "They're using the Emperor's daughter as a bounty? That's horrible." Marcus frowned as he read through the intercepted messages. The intelligence painted a clear picture. Emperor Vexthul was so frustrated by the human resistance that he was offering his own daughter in marriage to whoever could eliminate their leader. The fact that Princess Lyrahan was described as infertile in several transmissions made the offer even more insulting. It's a political move, Marcus explained to his children. Vexthul needs allies, but he doesn't want to give up anything valuable. So he offers a daughter who can't produce heirs. That's terrible, Sarah said, anger flashing in her green eyes. She's a person, not a prize. Commander Elena Vasquez, Marcus's second-in-command, approached from the navigation station. A former Earth Defense Force officer, she had escaped the fall of the Sol system and joined the Resistance 2 years ago. Her tactical expertise complemented Marcus's strategic genius perfectly. Sir, we've got a problem, Vasquez reported. Long-range sensors are picking up multiple alien fleets converging on this system. It looks like half the galaxy wants to collect that bounty. Marcus studied the sensor readings. Ships from the Hive Collective, the Crystalline Confederacy, the Shadow Fleet, and at least 4 other major powers were approaching from different vectors. Each fleet was substantial enough to overwhelm his small resistance force. They're not coordinating, he observed. Each fleet is trying to claim the prize for themselves. That gives us an advantage. Dad, there are hundreds of ships out there, David said nervously. We only have 12. David, what's the first rule of asymmetric warfare? Marcus asked patiently. His son thought for a moment. Use your enemy's strength against them? Exactly. We can't fight all of those fleets, but we can make them fight each other. Sarah leaned forward eagerly. You have a plan, don't you? Marcus was already moving to the tactical display, his mind racing through possibilities. The asteroid field where they were hiding contained remnants of an ancient civilization, including several derelict space stations with still functional automated defense systems. Elena, how long until the first fleet reaches the outer system? He asked. 6 hours for the crystalline ships. The others will arrive within 12 hours of each other. Perfect. David, I need you to hack into those old defense stations. Can you make them respond to specific signals? The 12-year-old's eyes lit up with understanding. You want to use the automated defenses as triggers. Make it look like one fleet is attacking the others. Sarah, you're our best pilot after Elena. Think you can handle a reconnaissance mission? His daughter nodded eagerly. What do you need? I want you to get close enough to each fleet to plant transmitter beacons. When David activates the defense stations, they'll target the beacons. Each fleet will think the others are attacking them. Vasquez studied the plan with professional appreciation. It could work, sir, but it's incredibly dangerous. If any of those fleets detect our people, they won't expect us to get that close, Marcus replied confidently. Everyone assumes we'll run from superior numbers. Instead, we're going to walk right into the middle of them. As his crew began preparing for the mission, Marcus found himself thinking about the princess being offered as a prize for his death. He had fought against tyranny all his life, but the casual way Vexthul was using his own daughter as a political tool struck him as particularly cruel. Dad, Sarah appeared at his elbow. Are you really going to let them use that princess as a reward for killing you? Marcus looked down at his daughter, seeing Elena's compassion reflected in her young face. What would you have me do, sweetheart? I don't know, but Mom always said that how we treat people shows who we really are. Using someone as a prize because they can't have children? That's not right. No, Marcus agreed quietly. It's not right at all. As the Liberty's Edge prepared to face impossible odds once again, Marcus found himself making a silent promise. He would survive this battle, not just for the Resistance or for his children, but for a princess he had never met who deserved better than being bartered away by her own father. The hunt for Marcus Thompson was about to begin, but the hunters had no idea they were about to become the hunted. The battle began exactly as Marcus had predicted. The first shots were fired not between human and alien forces, but between the various alien fleets that had come to claim the bounty on his head. From the bridge of the Liberty's Edge, hidden, deep within the asteroid field, Marcus and his crew watched as chaos erupted across the Kepler 442 system. The crystalline ships just opened fire on the Hive Collective, Commander Vasquez reported, unable to keep the amazement out of her voice. They think the insects attacked their flagship. David looked up from his hacking station with a satisfied grin. The automated defense systems are working perfectly. Every time I activate one, it targets the nearest beacon. The aliens think they're being attacked by each other. Casualties? Marcus asked, though he felt no satisfaction in the destruction playing out before them. Heavy on all sides, sir. The Shadow Fleet lost 2 destroyers when they engaged the Zephyrian reinforcements. The Confederacy is requesting immediate support from their home fleet. Sarah returned to the bridge after completing another reconnaissance. Run. Her small fighter craft having somehow navigated undetected through the massive space battle. Her piloting skills had developed remarkably over the past 3 years, earning her the respect of veteran resistance fighters twice her age. Dad, I managed to get close to the Zephyrian command ship, she reported breathlessly. I intercepted some communications. They're not just angry about the other fleets fighting each other. There's something else going on. What kind of something? Marcus asked, accepting the datapad she handed him. Princess Lyrahan is missing. She disappeared from the Imperial Palace just before the fleets departed. Emperor Vexthol is furious. He thinks one of the other species kidnapped her to prevent the marriage alliance. Marcus studied the intercepted messages with growing interest. The missing princess had created even more chaos within the alien coalition. Accusations were flying between the various fleets, with each species suspecting the others of treachery. This is perfect, Vasquez observed. They're so busy fighting each other and looking for the princess that they've forgotten about hunting us. Where do you think she went? Sarah asked. The princess, I mean, why would she run away? Would you want to be married off to whoever killed your father's enemy? Marcus replied. Especially when your own father considers you worthless, as... If summoned by their conversation, the communications array suddenly came alive with an urgent signal. David frowned as he traced the source, his young face scrunched in concentration. Dad, this is weird. I'm getting a transmission on an old resistance frequency, but it's not from any of our people. Put it through, Marcus ordered. The main display flickered to life, showing the interior of what appeared to be a small escape pod. The occupant was clearly alien, with the distinctive scaled features of a Zephyrian. But unlike the massive, intimidating form of Emperor Vexthul, this figure was smaller, more delicate. Her scale showed a subtle iridescent pattern that marked her as nobility. This message is for General Marcus Thompson, the figure spoke in accented but clear English. I am Princess Lyrahan of the Zephyrian Empire. I need to speak with you. Silence fell across the bridge. Even David stopped typing, staring at the screen in amazement. The princess their father was supposedly trying to kill as a prize was calling them directly. This could be a trap, Vasquez warned quietly. Marcus studied the alien woman on the screen. Despite her obviously royal bearing, something in her expression reminded him of his own children when they were frightened but trying to be brave. Princess, he said, activating the communication system. This is General Thompson. How did you get this frequency? Relief flooded Lyrahan's features at his response. I stole it from my father's intelligence files before I escaped. General, I know about the bounty on your head. I know my father offered me as a prize for your death. Why are you contacting me? Where are you? I'm in an escape pod, drifting in the outer system. My navigation systems are damaged. General, I need your help, but more importantly, I have information you need. Sarah moved closer to her father. Dad, she sounds scared. It could still be a trap, Vasquez insisted. Why would a Zephyrian princess betray her own father? Lyrahan seemed to hear the conversation through the open communication channel. Commander Vasquez, I understand your suspicion, but I am not betraying my father. I am trying to save lives, both human and alien. Explain, Marcus said simply. My father has been lying about his reasons for this war. The bounty on your head, the marriage offer. It's all designed to hide a larger plan. He's not just trying to eliminate you, General. He's planning to use the chaos of this battle to destroy every alien fleet that came to claim the bounty. The implications hit Marcus immediately. He's planning to eliminate potential rivals while they're distracted. Exactly. Once you're dead and the other fleets are weakened from fighting each other, my father will move in with his full Imperial Navy. He'll claim that the other species forced his hand by interfering in Zephyrian territory. It will give him the excuse he needs to expand the Empire by another 100 systems. David looked up from his console with wide eyes. Dad, long-range sensors are detecting massive hyperspace signatures at the edge of the system. Something big is coming. Marcus felt the familiar chill that preceded his most dangerous decisions. How big? 300 ships, sir. Full Imperial battle fleet. How long do we have? Marcus asked Lyrahan. My father will wait until the bounty hunters have weakened each other sufficiently. Perhaps 2 hours, maybe 3. General, there are thousands of beings in those fleets who don't deserve to die for my father's ambition. Sarah moved to stand beside her father's chair. We have to warn them. Warn the people trying to kill us? Vasquez asked incredulously. Sarah's right, Marcus said quietly. This isn't about the war anymore. It's about preventing a massacre. General, Lyrahan's voice carried a note of desperation. I have another piece of information. My father believes your children travel with you aboard your command ship. He specifically ordered that they be captured alive if possible. Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. Why? Leverage. He thinks that threatening them will break your spirit, make you easier to defeat. My father has studied human psychology extensively. He believes family attachments are a weakness he can exploit. He's wrong, Sarah said firmly. Family makes us stronger. Looking at his daughter's determined expression, Marcus realized she was absolutely right. His family didn't make him weak. They made him fight harder, think clearer, and find solutions where none seemed to exist. Princess, he said, making his decision, send me your coordinates, we're coming to get you. Sir? Vasquez questioned. Elena, prepare the ship for extraction. David, send encrypted warnings to all the alien fleets. Tell them about the incoming Imperial Navy. And Sarah, he added, turning to his daughter, prep your fighter. We're going to need your piloting skills for this rescue. As the Liberty's Edge prepared to venture into the heart of the space battle to rescue the enemy princess, Marcus couldn't help but smile. Emperor Vexithul thought he understood human psychology, but he had made one critical error. He assumed that humans would abandon their principles when faced with overwhelming odds. He was about to learn just how wrong he could be. The rescue mission through the chaotic battle zone tested every skill Marcus and his crew had developed over 3 years of guerrilla warfare. The Liberty's Edge darted between massive alien battleships locked in fierce combat, using the confusion and weapons fire as cover. Sarah flew point in her fighter, guiding them through the safest corridors while David monitored communications to track the movements of hundreds of enemy vessels. I still think this is insane, Commander Vasquez muttered as another plasma barrage lit up the space around them. We're risking everything to save the daughter of our worst enemy. Elena, how many civilians died on New Haven? Marcus asked quietly, never taking his eyes off the tactical display. 40,000, she replied immediately. The number was burned into every resistance fighter's memory. And how many children were orphaned when Vexthul ordered the orbital bombardment of civilian shelters? Vasquez was quiet for a moment. 8,000 confirmed, probably more. Then you understand why we're doing this. We don't become monsters just because we're fighting one. Sarah's voice crackled over the communication system from her fighter. Dad, I've got visual on the escape pod. It's badly damaged and drifting toward the gravity well of that dead planet. Marcus studied the sensor readings. Princess Lyrahan's pod was indeed in serious trouble. Its life support systems were failing, and without intervention, it would either burn up in the planet's atmosphere or lose all power in the next hour. David, how are those warnings to the alien fleets being received? Marcus asked as he calculated an intercept course. His 12-year-old son looked up from the communication station with a frustrated expression. Mixed responses, Dad. The Crystalline Confederacy thanked us and started pulling back their ships. The Hive Collective thinks it's a human trick. The Shadow Fleet isn't responding at all. And the others? The Trekkan Commerce Guild is demanding proof. The Void Hunters think we're trying to steal their bounty. The hegemony of Suns is, well, they're not being very polite about it. Despite the tension of the situation, Marcus almost smiled. Even when trying to save their lives, half the galaxy insisted on being suspicious of human motives. Princess Lyrahan, this is General Thompson, he broadcast on the emergency frequency. We're approaching your position. Prepare for pickup. General, my pod systems are failing. I don't think I can maintain life support much longer. Hang on, Princess. Sarah's almost there. Through the cockpit display of her fighter, Sarah could see the Zephyrian escape pod tumbling slowly through space. Scorch marks along its hull told the story of a hasty escape under fire. As she maneuvered closer, she could make out the figure inside through the small viewport. Princess Lyrahan looked nothing like the terrifying alien Sarah had grown up fighting. She was smaller than most Zephyrians, her scaled features more delicate. Most striking were her eyes, which held an intelligence and compassion that seemed impossible in a member of the Imperial family. "Dad, her pod is venting atmosphere," Sarah reported. "I need to establish a docking seal fast." "Negative, sweetheart. Your fighter doesn't have the equipment for a rescue operation. Fall back and let us handle this. There's no time. By the time you get here, her life support will be gone." Marcus felt the familiar parental panic that came with watching his children take dangerous risks. But Sarah was right. The escape pod wouldn't last long enough for the Liberty's Edge to reach it safely. "Sarah, your fighter has emergency life support for 2 people, he said reluctantly. "But you've never tried a manual extraction in a combat zone." "Mom taught me emergency rescue procedures before she died," Sarah replied, her young voice steady with determination. "I can do this, Dad." As Sarah began the delicate process of matching the escape pod's tumbling motion, David suddenly shouted from his station. "Dad, the Imperial fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. Emperor Vexthal's flagship is transmitting on all frequencies." The main display filled with the imposing figure of Emperor Vexthal. His 6 arms gestured angrily as he addressed the various alien fleets scattered throughout the system. "Attention, bounty hunters," his voice boomed across space. "You have 30 minutes to withdraw from Zephyrian territory or face the consequences. The human general and his terrorists are under Imperial jurisdiction." "He's giving them a chance to leave," Vasquez observed. "No," Marcus corrected, studying the tactical readings. "He's hurting them. Look at the fleet positioning. The Imperial ships are blocking the main hyperspace routes. Any fleet that tries to retreat will have to pass through predetermined kill zones." David's face paled as he understood the implications. "It's a trap. The Emperor is going to destroy anyone who tries to leave. And anyone who stays to fight will be overwhelmed by superior numbers," Marcus added grimly. "Vexthal gets rid of potential rivals and claims we forced him to defend Zephyrian space." Sarah's voice interrupted their analysis. "I've got the princess. But Dad, her life support really is failing. She's unconscious and her breathing is shallow." "Get back to the ship immediately," Marcus ordered. "Elena, prepare the medical bay. David, send another broadcast to all fleets. Tell them about the trap. Show them the Imperial fleet positions." As Sarah's fighter raced back toward the Liberty's Edge with the unconscious princess aboard, the situation in the Kepler 442 system reached a critical point. Several alien fleets, finally understanding the scope of Emperor Vexthal's deception, began attempting to withdraw from the system. The crystalline Confederacy ships, which had received the human warnings earliest, managed to reach a safe distance before the Imperial fleet could intercept them. But the Hive Collective, still convinced that the humans were lying, found themselves caught in a devastating crossfire as Zephyrian dreadnoughts opened fire without warning. "The insects are being slaughtered," Vasquez reported, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. "Vexthal isn't even giving them a chance to surrender." Marcus watched the tactical display with growing anger. Hundreds of ships were being destroyed, thousands of lives snuffed out, all because one emperor wanted to expand his territory while eliminating potential threats. "Dad," David said quietly, "some of the fleets are requesting permission to join us. They want to fight back against the Empire." The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. Alien species that had come to kill him were now asking for his help to survive. The enemy of my enemy, he thought. Grant them temporary alliance status, he decided. Coordinate their movements with ours. Maybe together we can give these people a fighting chance. Sarah's fighter finally docked with the Liberty's Edge, and within minutes she was helping to carry the unconscious Princess Lirahan to the medical bay. As the ship's automated systems worked to stabilize the alien woman's condition, Marcus found himself studying her peaceful features. She was nothing like her father. Where Vexthal radiated cruelty and ambition, his daughter seemed to possess a quiet strength and dignity. Even unconscious and vulnerable, she maintained an aura of grace that spoke to inner character rather than mere royal breeding. "General," Vasquez approached with a grim expression, "we've got a problem. The Imperial fleet is converging on our position. Somehow they've tracked us through all this chaos." Marcus looked up from the medical readings. "How?" "Unknown, sir. But we've got 40 Zephyrian warships heading our way, and our new alien allies are scattered across the system." As if summoned by the news, the communication system activated again. Emperor Vexthal's image filled the display, But this time his message was directed specifically at the human command ship. "General Thompson," the Emperor's voice carried cold fury. "I know you have my daughter. Return her immediately and I will grant you a swift death. Refuse and I will make you watch as I execute your children slowly." Sarah moved to stand beside her father, her young face set with determination. "Let him try." Marcus put a protective arm around his daughter's shoulders. "Emperor, your daughter came to us voluntarily. She's free to leave whenever she chooses. My daughter is a traitor and a fool, but she is still Imperial property. Return her now, or face the full might of the Zephyrian Empire." "Actually," a weak voice spoke from the medical bay entrance, "I have something to say about that." Princess Lyrahan stood in the doorway, supported by the medical bay's mobility frame but conscious and alert. Her eyes met those of her father on the display screen, and for the first time in her life, she spoke to him as an equal rather than a subordinate. "Hello, Father. I believe we need to talk." The silence that followed Princess Lyrahan's appearance was deafening. On the main display, Emperor Vexthal's 6 arms slowly clenched into fists as he stared at his daughter. His scaled features showed a mixture of rage, disbelief, and something that might have been genuine concern buried beneath layers of imperial arrogance. "Lyrahan," he said finally, his voice carrying an edge that could cut through starship hull plating, "you will return to the Imperial fleet immediately. Your childish rebellion ends now." The princess straightened despite her obvious physical weakness, and Marcus was struck by how much courage it must have taken for her to face her father under these circumstances. She had been offered as a prize for his death, dismissed as worthless because of her inability to bear children, and yet here she stood, ready to confront the most powerful being in the galaxy. "No, Father, I will not return. And this is not a childish rebellion. This is a daughter finally seeing her father for what he truly is." Vexthal's yellow eyes narrowed dangerously. "You are speaking to the Emperor of the Zephyrian Empire. You will show proper respect." "Respect?" Lyrahan's voice grew stronger, fueled by years of suppressed anger. "You offered me as a prize to whoever could murder an innocent man. You used my infertility as an excuse to treat me like worthless property. Where is the respect in that, Father?" Sarah moved closer to the princess, instinctively offering support. "You don't have to go back to him. Stay out of this, human child," Vexthal snapped. "This is Imperial family business." "Actually," Marcus interjected, his voice calm but carrying the authority of a man who had faced impossible odds countless times, "your daughter sought sanctuary aboard my ship. Under the laws of war, she's under my protection now." The Emperor's laugh was cold and bitter. "Laws of war? You're rebels and terrorists. You have no legal standing in this galaxy." "Maybe not," Marcus agreed, "but we have something your empire has forgotten. We have honor." David looked up from his communication station with wide eyes. "Dad, you need to see this. The alien fleets that survived the Emperor's trap are forming up together. They're not running anymore." The tactical display showed an amazing sight. Ships from 6 different species, former enemies and rivals, were joining together in a coordinated formation. The Crystalline Confederacy's geometric vessels flew alongside the organic curves of the Trek and Commerce Guild ships. Shadow Fleet stealth cruisers materialized next to the brutally functional designs of the hegemony of suns. "General Thompson," a transmission came from the makeshift alliance. "This is Admiral Kethvar of the Confederacy. Our combined fleets request permission to follow your tactical leadership. Emperor Vexthal has shown that none of us are safe from his ambitions." Marcus studied the force disposition with professional interest. The Allied fleets were still outnumbered by the Imperial Navy, but their combined firepower and diverse technologies might be enough to turn the tide. "Permission granted, Admiral. But understand that I fight to protect people, not to conquer territory." "Understood, General. Many of us came here seeking bounty, but we've learned that survival is worth more than credits." Princess Lyrahan watched the exchange with fascination. "General, in all my years studying galactic politics, I have never seen former enemies unite so quickly. How did you accomplish this?" "I didn't," Marcus replied honestly. "Your father did. Sometimes it takes a common threat to show people they have more in common than they thought." Emperor Vexthal's image on the display screen showed mounting fury as he watched his carefully laid plans crumble. The trap that was supposed to eliminate potential rivals had instead created a powerful alliance against his empire. "Enough of this," he snarled. "Lyrahan, you have 10 minutes to return to the Imperial fleet." If you refuse, I will destroy every ship in this system, including the one you're on. You would murder your own daughter? Sarah asked incredulously. I would eliminate a traitor, Vexthul replied without hesitation. Family means nothing when measured against the Empire. The casual cruelty of the statement hit everyone on the bridge. Marcus found himself thinking of Elena, killed in the bombardment of New Haven. She had died protecting children in a civilian shelter, showing the best of humanity. Vexthul was willing to murder his own daughter to maintain his power, representing the worst of his species. Princess, Marcus said quietly, the choice is yours. I won't force you to stay, and I won't stop you from leaving if that's what you want. Lirahan looked around the bridge of the human ship. She saw David, barely 12 years old, but already contributing to the war effort with his technical skills. Sarah, 16 and brave enough to risk her life rescuing a complete stranger. Commander Vasquez, professional and competent, treating the princess with respect despite her alien heritage. Most of all, she saw Marcus Thompson himself, the man her father had described as a terrorist and a primitive. Instead, she found someone who had risked everything to save her life, offered her protection without asking for anything in return, and treated her with more dignity than her own father ever had. I stay with the humans, she announced firmly. General Thompson, I formally request political asylum. Granted, Marcus replied immediately. Welcome aboard, Princess. Vexthul's roar of rage could be heard even over the communication static. So be it. Daughter, you have chosen to die with terrorists and primitives. I will honor that choice. The connection severed, leaving the bridge in tense silence. David immediately began tracking the movements of the Imperial fleet, while Vasquez coordinated with the Alien Alliance. Sarah helped Princess Lirahan to a chair, the young human girl showing remarkable compassion for someone from a species she had been fighting her entire life. General, Admiral Kethvar's voice crackled over the communication system. Imperial forces are moving into attack formation. Multiple dreadnoughts incoming on various vectors. They're trying to prevent us from concentrating our firepower. Marcus studied the tactical situation with the calm focus that had made him famous throughout the galaxy. The Imperial fleet was larger and better equipped, but they were dealing with a diverse alliance that couldn't be predicted using standard Zephyrian tactics. All allied ships, this is General Thompson, we're going to use the same strategy that brought us together. Turn their strength against them. Explain, General, requested Commander Hisk of the Shadow Fleet. Emperor Vexthul expects us to fight like him, with massive ships in direct confrontation. Instead, we're going to fight like humans. We're going to be unpredictable. Princess Lirahan leaned forward with interest. General, what do you know about Zephyrian battle doctrine? Standard Imperial tactics rely on overwhelming firepower and rigid command structures. They expect enemies to behave rationally, to retreat when faced with superior odds. But humans don't retreat, Sarah said with a grin. Exactly, and now our allies are learning not to retreat either. As the Imperial fleet approached, Marcus began issuing orders that would have seemed insane to any conventional military commander. He was splitting his forces, sending ships on seemingly suicidal runs against superior firepower, and coordinating attacks that appeared to have no strategic value. But Princess Lirahan, with her deep knowledge of Imperial tactics, began to see the pattern. Each seemingly random attack was designed to force the Zephyrian commanders into specific responses. Marcus was manipulating the entire battle, turning the Imperial fleet's predictability into a weakness. Father always said humans were primitive, she murmured in amazement. He was wrong. You fight with a sophistication that surpasses anything in our military academies. We fight like people who have everything to lose, Marcus replied. That makes all the difference. The battle for the Kepler 442 system was about to begin in earnest, and for the first time since the war started, the humans were not facing impossible odds alone. The battle that followed would be remembered across the galaxy for generations. Marcus Thompson's tactical genius, combined with the desperate courage of the Alien Alliance, created a symphony of destruction that neither side could have anticipated. The Liberty's edge darted through the chaos like a conductor's baton, coordinating attacks that turned the Zephyrian Empire's greatest strength into its greatest weakness. Shadow Fleet, execute Gamma pattern on the Imperial left flank, Marcus commanded. His voice calm despite the plasma fire lighting up space around them. Crystalline ships, focus your particle beams on the dreadnought engines. Trekken vessels, prepare for close-range torpedo runs. Princess Lyrahan watched in amazement as the diverse alliance moved with precision that defied everything she knew about multi-species cooperation. General, how are you coordinating so many different ship types and command structures? Same way I coordinate my family, Marcus replied with a slight smile. You give people a reason to trust you, then you trust them to do their jobs. David looked up from his station with excitement. Dad, the hegemony ships just disabled the Imperial flagship's main weapons array. Emperor Vexthol's command ship is vulnerable. Negative on direct assault, Marcus decided quickly. Your father wants us to come after him personally. That's exactly what we're not going to do. Then what's the plan? Sarah asked from her pilot station. She had been running reconnaissance missions throughout the battle, her small fighter somehow avoiding detection by ships 1,000 times larger. We're going to do something Vexthol will never expect. We're going to let him win. The confusion on the bridge was immediate. Commander Vasquez turned from her tactical display with a frown. Sir, explain that. We're actually gaining the upper hand here. Marcus pointed to the overall strategic display. Elena, what do you see when you look at the Imperial fleet positioning? She studied the formation for a moment. They're pulling back toward the system's edge, forming a defensive perimeter around the Emperor's flagship. Exactly. Vexthol is doing what any rational commander would do when faced with unexpected resistance. He's consolidating his forces and preparing for a prolonged engagement. Princess Lyrahan's eyes widened with understanding. But that's not what he came here to do. Father wanted a quick victory to demonstrate Imperial power. A defensive battle makes him look weak. Right. And while we're keeping his attention focused on this system, what's happening in the rest of Zephyrian space? David's fingers flew over his communication console as he accessed resistance intelligence networks. The outer colonies are reporting reduced Imperial presence. Garrison fleets are being recalled to deal with the crisis here. Dad, Sarah said with growing excitement, you're not trying to win this battle. You're trying to win the war. Marcus nodded proudly. Every ship Vexthol keeps here is a ship that's not oppressing someone else. Every day this battle continues is another day for resistance movements across the galaxy to organize and strike back. The genius of the strategy was becoming clear to everyone on the bridge. By creating a threat that the Emperor couldn't ignore but couldn't quickly eliminate, Marcus was forcing the Zephyrian Empire to concentrate its forces in one location, while weakening its grip on hundreds of other worlds. General Thompson, Admiral Kethvar's voice came over the communication system. Our combined fleets have taken significant casualties, but Imperial losses are even higher. How long do you want us to maintain this engagement? As long as possible, Admiral. But not at the cost of unnecessary lives. If any fleet needs to withdraw, they have my permission to do so. Princess Lyrahan moved closer to Marcus's command chair. General, I can help extend this battle. I know my father's psychological weaknesses better than anyone. What do you have in mind? He's not just fighting you anymore. He's fighting the humiliation of having his own daughter reject him publicly. If I broadcast a message to the Imperial fleet explaining why I chose to stay with you instead of returning home, it will enrage him beyond rational thought. Marcus frowned. Princess, that could put you in serious danger. If your father captures you after something like that, he already wants to kill me, Lyrahan pointed out. At least this way my death would serve a purpose. No, Sarah interjected firmly. Nobody's dying. We've gotten this far by being smarter than them, not by sacrificing people. Sarah's right, Marcus agreed. But Princess, you could send a different kind of message. Not one designed to make your father angry, but one that might make other Zephyrians think. What do you mean? Tell them about what you've seen here. Tell them about humans who risk their lives to save their enemies' children. Tell them about alien species working together instead of fighting. Show them that there's another way to live besides conquest and domination. The idea took shape quickly. Within an hour, Princess Lyrahan was broadcasting on all Imperial frequencies. But instead of defiance, she spoke with compassion. She described the rescue that had saved her life, the kindness shown to her by humans she had been taught to hate, and the cooperation she had witnessed between former enemies. The response was immediate and profound. Across the Imperial fleet, Zephyrian crew members began questioning orders for the first time in their lives. Some ships simply stopped firing. Others requested permission to withdraw from the battle. A few even sent private messages asking about the possibility of defection. Emperor Vexthol's rage was visible even across the vast distances of space. His flagship began launching increasingly desperate attacks, abandoning all tactical sense in favor of raw aggression. The careful defensive formation collapsed as other Imperial commanders tried to maintain discipline, while their Emperor flew into an uncontrollable fury. "Dad, look at this!" David called excitedly. "I'm picking up transmissions from Zephyrian colonies all over the Empire. They're broadcasting Princess Lyrahan's message to their own populations." "Rebellions?" Marcus asked. "Better. They're laying down their weapons. Some worlds are declaring independence. Others are just refusing to send more troops to the Imperial fleet." Marcus felt a sensation he hadn't experienced in 3 years of warfare. Hope. Not just hope for victory, but hope for peace. The princess's words were accomplishing what no military strategy could achieve. They were making people on both sides remember that their enemies were also people. "General," Commander Vasquez reported with amazement in her voice, "the Imperial fleet is fragmenting. Half the ships are pulling back from the battle zone. Some are requesting safe passage to return to their home systems." "Grant it," Marcus ordered immediately. "Anyone who wants to leave this battle can go home safely." "Sir, that includes ships that came here to kill you." "Elena, anyone who came here to kill me but chooses to go home instead has learned something important. That's worth more than capturing a few ships." Princess Lyrahan watched the tactical display with tears streaming down her scaled features. "General, you're giving them a choice my father never offered. The right to walk away from a war they didn't start. Princess, what do you think will happen when those ships return to their homeworlds? What will those crews tell their families about what they saw here?" She understood immediately. "They'll tell them about the human general who could have destroyed them, but chose mercy instead. They'll spread the story across the Empire." "Exactly. Sometimes the best way to win a war is to convince people they don't want to fight it anymore." As the battle for the Kepler 442 system wound down, it became clear that something unprecedented had occurred. For the first time in galactic history, a major Imperial offensive had been stopped not by superior firepower, but by superior humanity. Emperor Vexthal's flagship remained in the system, isolated and increasingly desperate. His own fleet had largely abandoned him, leaving him with only his most fanatically loyal supporters. The man who had started the day as the undisputed ruler of 300 star systems found himself commanding barely a dozen ships. But Marcus Thompson knew that cornered enemies were the most dangerous. The real test was still to come. The standoff lasted for 3 days. Emperor Vexthal's flagship, the massive dreadnought Imperial Destiny, hung in space like a wounded predator, surrounded by the remnants of his once mighty fleet. Marcus kept the Allied forces at a respectful distance, neither attacking nor retreating, while diplomatic channels buzzed with unprecedented activity across the galaxy. Princess Lyrahan had become an inadvertent symbol of hope throughout Zephyrian space. Her message of peace and cooperation had sparked movements on dozens of worlds. Colonial governors were declaring autonomy. Military commanders were refusing orders to suppress civilian populations. And for the first time in Imperial history, the Emperor's absolute authority was being questioned openly. "General Thompson," came a transmission from the Imperial flagship, but the voice wasn't Vexthal's. "This is Admiral Thekfor, Senior Fleet Commander. I request permission to speak with you privately." Marcus exchanged glances with his crew. "Go ahead, Admiral." "Sir, Emperor Vexthal is unwell. The events of the past few days have affected his judgment severely. He's issued orders to activate the flagship's self-destruct system, rather than surrender." The implications hit everyone on the bridge immediately. The Imperial Destiny carried enough antimatter to devastate everything within 1,000,000 kilometers, including all the Allied ships and the Liberty's Edge. "How much time do we have?" Marcus asked. "Unknown, General. His Majesty has locked himself in the command center with his personal guard. We can't override the destruct sequence without his authorization codes." Princess Lyrahan stepped forward urgently. "Admiral Thekfor, this is Princess Lyrahan. I know the emergency override procedures. If you can get me aboard the flagship, I can stop the self-destruct." "Your Highness." The Admiral's relief was audible even across the communication link. "The Emperor has ordered your execution on site. I cannot guarantee your safety." "Admiral," Marcus interjected, "what's the crew's position on this situation?" There was a long pause before Thekfor answered. "General, most of the crew agrees that destroying ourselves to deny you a victory is not in the Empire's best interests. We're loyal to Zephyria, but we're not suicidal. Sarah moved to her father's side. Dad, if the princess goes over there alone, the Emperor will kill her before she can reach the command center. I know, sweetheart. But we can't just stand by and let him destroy everyone out of spite. David looked up from his console with an idea forming. Dad, what if Princess Lyrahan didn't go alone? What if she had backup? David, we can't send troops aboard an Imperial flagship. That would be an act of war against everyone who's trying to surrender. Not troops, his son said with a grin. Family. The plan that emerged was audacious even by Marcus Thompson's standards. Instead of a military assault on the flagship, they would stage what amounted to an intervention. Princess Lyrahan would board the Imperial Destiny openly, accompanied by Marcus and his children as a gesture of trust and peaceful intent. Sir, this is insane. Commander Vasquez protested. You'll be walking into the heart of enemy territory with no backup and no way to retreat. Elena, sometimes the most important battles can't be won with weapons, Marcus replied. Vexthul is a father who's lost his way. Maybe what he needs is to see what real family looks like. The boarding shuttle that carried them to the Imperial flagship was small and unarmed, a deliberate symbol of peaceful intentions. As they approached the massive dreadnought, Sarah couldn't help but be impressed by the ship's intimidating design. It's bigger than our entire fleet, she observed. Size isn't everything, Marcus replied. This ship was built to inspire fear. Our ship was built to inspire hope. Guess which one people prefer? Admiral Thekvor met them personally at the docking bay. The veteran Zephyrian officer looked exhausted, his scaled features showing the strain of the past few days. Behind him stood dozens of Imperial crew members, their expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. Your Highness. The Admiral bowed formally to Princess Lyrahan. General Thompson, I must warn you that His Majesty has become increasingly unstable. He may not listen to reason. Admiral, Marcus said quietly, in my experience, the people who need reason most are often the ones least willing to accept it. But we have to try. As they made their way through the corridors of the flagship, Marcus noticed something remarkable. Despite being aboard an enemy vessel, surrounded by soldiers who had been trying to kill him just days before, he felt no sense of threat. The Zephyrian crew members they passed looked at Princess Lyrahan with respect, and at his family with curiosity rather than hatred. Princess, one young crew member called out as they passed. Is it true what you said? About humans fighting to protect people instead of conquer them? Lyrahan smiled gently. It's true. I've seen it myself. Then maybe this war doesn't have to continue, the soldier said hopefully. When they reached the sealed command center, they could hear Vexthul's voice raging through the heavy doors. The Emperor was alternating between threats against his own crew and demands that the self-destruct sequence be activated immediately. Father, Princess Lyrahan called through the door. I've come home. The sudden silence from within was profound. Then Vexthul's voice, quieter but filled with pain. Lyrahan, you came back? I came back to talk to you. To help you understand what I've learned. You betrayed me. You chose terrorists over your own blood. I chose compassion over cruelty. I chose hope over fear. Father opened the door. Let me show you that there's another way. David stepped forward and placed his small hand on the massive door. Emperor Vexthul. This is David Thompson. I'm 12 years old and I've been fighting your empire my whole life. But I don't want to fight anymore. None of us do. You're the terrorist's spawn. Vexthul's voice carried venom. You should fear me. I did fear you, David replied honestly. But then I met your daughter. She's kind and brave and smart. If she's what Zephyrians can be, then maybe we don't have to be enemies. Sarah joined her brother at the door. Your Majesty, my mom died in the bombing of New Haven. I hated your empire for that. But your daughter risked her life to save strangers. She showed me that revenge just creates more pain. Marcus stepped forward last. Emperor, I'm the man you've been trying to kill for 3 years. I'm here unarmed and unguarded, asking you to choose life over death. Not just for us, but for everyone who's been caught up in this war. The silence stretched for long minutes. Finally, the massive doors began to slide open. Emperor Vexthul stood in the doorway, and for the first time he looked like what he truly was. A tired old man who had lost his way. You came, he said to his daughter, his voice breaking slightly. After everything I did, you came back. I came back because you're my father, Lirahan replied. And because I believe that even emperors can choose to be better. The sight that greeted them in the command center was heartbreaking. Vexthul had been alone for days, his personal guard having abandoned their posts when he ordered the self-destruct activation. The Emperor, who had once commanded 300 star systems, was surrounded by the wreckage of his own making. I don't know how to stop this, Vexthul admitted, gesturing at the control panels. I don't know how to stop any of it. Marcus approached slowly, his hands visible and empty. Your Majesty, the first step is admitting that the old way isn't working. The second step is choosing to try something new. And what would you suggest, General? That I surrender my empire to a collection of rebels and primitives? I suggest you give your people the chance to choose their own destiny. Some worlds will want to remain part of the empire if it becomes something worth belonging to. Others will choose independence. Both choices are valid. Princess Lyrahan moved to the self-destruct controls. Father, help me shut this down. Help me save the lives of everyone on this ship. Slowly, his hands shaking with emotion, Emperor Vexthul entered his authorization codes. The red warning lights faded, replaced by the steady blue glow of normal operations. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now, Marcus said, we go home, all of us, and we start building something better than what we had before. 6 months later, the Treaty of Kepler 442 was signed aboard a space station constructed from the wreckage of the Great Battle. Representatives from dozens of species, including a reformed Zephyrian government led by Princess Lyrahan, established the Galactic Cooperation Council. Marcus Thompson officially retired from military service, returning to Earth with his children to help establish the new diplomatic corps. Emperor Vexthul, stripped of his imperial titles but granted amnesty, chose to spend his remaining years working with refugees displaced by the war he had caused. The galaxy learned that the greatest victories weren't won through conquest, but through the simple recognition that former enemies could become friends when given the chance. And at the center of it all was the story of a human general who proved that sometimes the best way to win a war is to convince everyone to stop fighting Princess Lyrahan, now Chancellor of the reformed Zephyrian Republic, kept a picture on her desk of the Thompson family. Not because she had fallen in love with Marcus, as her father's original plan had intended, but because they had shown her what real family looked like. People who chose to protect and support each other, not because they had to, but because they wanted to.